The vast emptiness of space held many surprises, but none quite like the events that unfolded in Sector 7 of the neutral zone. The Council patrol ship, Swift Justice, glided through the darkness, its sleek purple hull gleaming under distant starlight. Commander Rex stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes scanning the latest reports when the alert sounded. "Unknown vessel detected," announced the sensor officer, her tentacles working quickly across the control panel. "It's primitive, sir, using chemical propulsion." Rex moved to the main viewport, his tall frame casting a shadow over the glowing displays. The vessel in question was small, blocky, and utterly inelegant by Council standards. Its hull was scarred by micro-impacts, and thermal readings showed inefficient heat dispersal patterns. To his experienced eyes, it looked like something from a historical museum. "Attempt standard contact protocols," Rex ordered, following procedure despite his doubts about the vessel's capabilities. The communication officer sent out the universal greeting signal, a complex burst of mathematically pure patterns designed to be recognizable by any spacefaring civilization. Minutes passed. The only response was a simple radio wave transmission, ancient technology by Council standards. The message was clear but primitive. "This is cargo vessel Star Runner. Please identify yourself." Rex couldn't help but feel a mixture of amusement and pity. "They're using radio waves. Scan the vessel. I want to know if anyone's even alive in there." The scans revealed something unexpected. The ship was fully crewed, its life support systems functioning through what appeared to be remarkably simple but effective means. The vessel's cargo holds were full of mining equipment and processed metals, valuable resources that could be put to better use by the Council. "Sir," his second-in-command suggested, "under Council Regulation 47B, we can claim salvage rights on any derelict or primitive vessel in neutral space. Their technology level is well below the minimum standard for recognized spacefaring races." Rex considered this. The humans were clearly not ready for proper space travel. Their ship was practically held together by patches and prayers. Taking control of the vessel would be a mercy. "Prepare a boarding party. Standard containment protocols." The boarding shuttle launched from the Swift Justice, its advanced propulsion systems making the short journey in moments. The team of 6 Council peacekeepers, enclosed in their state-of-the-art environmental suits, approached the airlock of the Star Runner. Inside the human vessel, Captain Tom Walker watched the alien ship's approach on a simple monitor. His weathered face remained calm as he toggled the ship's internal comm. "All hands, this is the captain. Looks like we got some unwanted guests who think we're easy pickings. Initiate protocol, Baker." Throughout the ship, his crew moved with practiced efficiency. Engineers disabled safety overrides on the atmospheric systems. The cargo master carefully adjusted the artificial gravity plates. The medical officer secured all loose equipment, and the navigation officer began plotting a series of precise calculations. The alien boarding party reached the airlock, their advanced tools making short work of the primitive locking mechanism. Their leader reported back to Rex. "Entry achieved, Commander. These humans don't even use quantum encryption on their security systems." As the aliens stepped through the airlock, they failed to notice several things. They didn't see the slight smile on Captain Walker's face as he watched them on the security feed. They missed the fact that every crew member was securely strapped into acceleration couches. And most importantly, they didn't realize that what they dismissed as primitive technology was about to teach them a very expensive lesson. Rex watched from his command chair as his boarding team entered the human vessel. He was already thinking about how to document this salvage operation in his reports when his sensor officer suddenly shouted in alarm. "Sir, the human ship, it's..." But before she could finish her sentence, the Star Runner demonstrated exactly why humans would soon become infamous throughout the galaxy. The lesson was about to begin. The alien boarding party's first hint that something was wrong came when the airlock door sealed behind them with a solid thunk. Their second hint was the sudden silence of their communication devices. Equipment malfunction, the team leader reported, checking his advanced suit systems. Some kind of interference. In the ship's control room, Captain Walker pressed a button on his chair. Chief Engineer, they're in. Show them why humans still use primitive mechanical systems. Down in engineering, Chief Bill Mason grinned as he pulled a large red lever. Throughout the Star Runner, mechanical locks engaged with satisfying clicks. No computers, no electronics, just good old-fashioned steel and springs. The alien team moved cautiously through the corridor, their weapons ready. The leader checked his scanner, frowning at the readings. Life signs are present but scattered. These humans appear to be. His words cut off as the artificial gravity shifted. Not enough to throw them off their feet, just enough to make them stumble. Then it shifted again, and again. Like waves on an ocean, the gravity rolled through the corridor. Impossible, one alien said, checking his equipment. Their artificial gravity system is too primitive for such precise control. On the bridge, the navigation officer, Jack, worked his controls with practiced skill. Gravity plates cycling as planned, Captain. They're getting a proper Earth-Sea cruise experience. The aliens struggled to maintain their balance as the floor seemed to roll beneath them. Their advanced magnetic boots, designed for zero-gravity operations, actually worked against them. Each shift in gravity caused their boots to overcompensate, making their movements awkward and jerky. Then the temperature began to drop. Sir, the alien team's engineer reported, the corridor's temperature is decreasing rapidly. These humans, they're venting atmosphere in controlled bursts. In engineering, Chief Mason watched the temperature gauges with satisfaction. Beautiful thing about mechanical systems, he said to his assistant. They work just fine in the cold. The alien boarding party's suits automatically compensated for the cold, but their sensors were going haywire. The rapid temperature changes and shifting gravity created a chaos of readings. They couldn't tell which way led deeper into the ship and which way led back to their entry point. On the Swift Justice, Commander Rex watched with growing concern. Why can't we communicate with our boarding team? Sir, his sensor officer replied, the human ship is releasing some kind of metallic dust into their ventilation system. It's creating a Faraday cage effect. Our signals can't penetrate it. Inside the Star Runner, the aliens found themselves trapped in a corridor that seemed to be working against them. Each door they tried to open led to another sealed compartment. Their advanced cutting tools struggled against the simple mechanical locks. This is ridiculous, the team leader growled. We're being outmaneuvered by primitive technology. Captain Walker's voice suddenly came through their suit speakers, making them jump. Gentlemen, I suggest you look out the nearest viewport. The aliens rushed to the small window, and their hearts sank. While they'd been struggling with the ship's defenses, the Star Runner had been slowly maneuvering. The Swift Justice was no longer in front of them. It was below them, and the Star Runner's cargo bay doors were open, revealing their contents. You see, Walker's voice continued calmly, we humans learned long ago that sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. Right now, you're looking at about 30 tons of mining debris that's about to be released. Your fancy shields might stop energy weapons, but I'm betting they're not rated for a hailstorm of rocks. The aliens looked at each other in horror as they realized the trap they'd walked into. Their advanced technology, their superior weapons, their sophisticated shields, none of it had prepared them for the sheer audacity of human ingenuity. And in space, falling rocks don't need fancy guidance systems to hit their target. The news of the Star Runner incident spread through the Galactic Council chambers like wildfire. Council members from 100 different species gathered in the Great Hall, their various appendages gesturing in agitation as they discussed the shocking report. High Counselor Vax, the eldest member of the council, stared at the holographic display showing the aftermath. The Swift Justice floated in space, its pristine hull now dented and scarred by what appeared to be common rocks. The ship's shields, capable of deflecting energy weapons, had proven useless against simple kinetic impacts. You mean to tell me, Vax said slowly, that a primitive human vessel not only resisted our boarding party, but also damaged one of our patrol ships, using mining debris. The Council's diplomatic officer shuffled nervously. That's not the worst of it, sir. We've received a formal complaint from Earth's government. They recorded everything. The holographic display changed to show multiple camera angles from the Star Runner. The Council members watched in stunned silence as the scene played out. Their boarding party trapped by simple mechanical means, their advanced technology rendered useless by basic countermeasures, and their patrol ship pelted with rocks like a target in a shooting gallery. The humans are demanding recognition and reparations, the diplomatic officer continued. They're calling it an act of piracy in neutral space. A younger council member stood up. Piracy? We were following standard procedures for dealing with primitive vessels. About that, the diplomatic officer said, bringing up another display. Earth's representatives have provided extensive documentation showing their ships meet all functional requirements for space travel. They may use different technology than we do, but their safety and success rates are, actually, quite impressive. The chamber erupted in debate. Some council members argued for dismissing the humans' complaints. After all, they were barely out of their solar system. Others pointed out that ignoring the incident could set a dangerous precedent. In the midst of the chaos, a message arrived from Earth. The council chamber fell silent as a simple video transmission began playing. It showed Captain Walker, sitting calmly at his desk on the Star Runner. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice level and professional. By now you've reviewed the footage of your attempted boarding of my vessel. I want to be clear, we could have responded with much more severe measures. The rocks were a warning shot. The council members shifted uncomfortably as Walker continued. Earth has been watching your ships for years. We've studied your technology, your protocols, and your attitudes toward primitive species. We chose to remain quiet, to learn. But now that you've forced our hand, let's talk about fair treatment and mutual respect. High Counselor Vax raised all four of his eyebrows. He's bluffing. They couldn't have been watching us without our knowledge. The diplomatic officer cleared their throat. Sir, we've confirmed their claims. Earth has developed a whole series of observation posts using what they call passive technology. No energy signatures for us to detect. They've been gathering intelligence on Council operations for over a decade. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. These humans, whom they had dismissed as primitive, had been quietly studying them all along. Their seemingly outdated technology wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a deliberate choice that had allowed them to operate undetected. There's one more thing, the diplomatic officer added. The humans have offered to share their data on Council activities in neutral space with other emerging spacefaring races, unless we agree to revise our first contact protocols. High Counselor Vax looked around the chamber at his fellow council members. They had all reached the same conclusion. They had severely underestimated humanity. Schedule a meeting with Earth's representatives, Vax ordered, and prepare a formal apology. It seems we have much to learn about the different paths to the stars. As the council members filed out of the chamber, many of them were already making notes to warn their own ships about encountering human vessels. Sometimes, they realized, the simplest technology could be the most dangerous. 2 months after the Star Runner incident, strange stories began circulating through spaceports across the galaxy. The tales spread from ship to ship, each one adding to humanity's growing reputation. In a busy bar on Space Station Delta, Captain Yax of the merchant vessel Blue Star slammed his drink down on the table. You think that's impressive? Let me tell you what I saw last week in the Orion Belt. His audience, a mix of different alien species, leaned in closer. They'd all heard stories by now, but first-hand accounts were special. This human cargo ship got caught in an asteroid storm, Yax continued. Their main engine was damaged. By our standards, they should have been dead in space. You know what they did? They sealed off the engine room, used their spacesuits to go outside, and actually repaired the engine while it was running. At another table, a council security officer nodded. They call it hot repairs. Apparently, it's standard procedure in their engineer training. They practice it on Earth in something called simulator rooms before they're allowed in space. The stories kept coming. A patrol ship reported watching a human vessel survive 3 system failures in a row, switching smoothly between backup systems that shouldn't have worked together. A mining corporation told of a human ship that lost all power but kept its crew alive for 2 weeks, using nothing but mechanical systems and chemical batteries. In the Council's Ship Design Bureau, experts pored over reports and sensor readings from these incidents. The chief analyst, Dr. Rin, presented his findings to a packed auditorium. The key to understanding human ships, he explained, pointing to a diagram, is that they don't trust any single system, no matter how advanced. Where we focus on making one perfect system, they build 3 good enough systems that work in different ways. The audience watched as he brought up images of human engine rooms. Look here, they have digital controls, but also analog backups. And behind those, mechanical controls that can work without any power at all. It's redundant and inefficient by our standards, but it works, someone in the audience finished. Dr. Rin nodded. More than that, it works in ways we never considered. Their backup systems don't just replace the main systems. They're deliberately designed to work differently. If something affects their primary systems, the backups are likely immune because they operate on completely different principles. In space, more encounters only added to humanity's reputation. A pirate group that tried to disable a human ship with an electromagnetic pulse found out the hard way that mechanical systems don't care about electromagnetic interference. A solar storm that should have fried a ship's computers barely slowed down the human vessel, which switched to analog controls without missing a beat. The Council's military began secretly studying human engineering principles. They were particularly interested in the humans' habit of keeping outdated technology as emergency backups. It's not about the technology level, explained a human engineer in a recorded lecture that made its way through Council space. It's about reliability. Sure, quantum computers are great, until they're not. But you know what never fails? A good old mechanical pressure gauge. No power needed, no software to crash, just physics doing its job. In shipyards across the galaxy, vessels began appearing with what their builders called human-style redundancy. Ships that once relied solely on advanced technology now carried backup systems using simpler, more reliable methods. The Council's First Contact Division created a new classification for human vessels, multi-system capable. It was a diplomatic way of saying, can survive almost anything through sheer stubbornness and backup systems. And in quiet meetings, Council military strategists added a new term to their threat assessment protocols: human engineering. It wasn't the most advanced technology they'd ever seen, but it was proving to be among the most reliable, and therefore the most dangerous. As one Council admiral put it, advanced technology can fail, but try to stop a determined human with a wrench and some duct tape. That's when you'll really learn to worry. The document first appeared on a cargo ship's database. No one knew who put it there, but within weeks, copies spread across every major spacefaring civilization. It was simply titled, Guidelines for Encountering Human Vessels, a Practical Manual for Space Travelers. In a quiet office on the Council's central station, Security Chief Max read through the latest version of the document. His antennae twitched as he studied the contents. CT2I-1. Basic Principles. Never assume a human ship is disabled just because your scans show critical system failure. Any human vessel over 20 meters long carries at least 3 backup systems for vital functions. Human crews can and will repair systems while they are running. The more primitive a human system appears, the more likely it is to be working exactly as intended. This is remarkable, Max muttered, continuing to read. Section 2, CAC Studies. Case 1. The Mining Vessel Incident. A human mining ship lost main power in the asteroid belt. When rescue ships arrived 72 hours later, they found the crew had rigged an emergency power system using mining lasers and storage batteries. The crew's explanation: "We had the parts, and we had time." Case 2. The solar storm survival. 3 ships were caught in a massive solar flare. 2 advanced council vessels suffered complete system failure. The human cargo ship not only survived, but towed both council vessels to safety using a backup system powered by its water recycling unit. See HFY 3. Critical warnings. Never attempt to disable a human ship's communications. They maintain at least 5 different methods of sending messages, including physical signal flags for visual communication. Do not assume that computer-based attacks will be effective. Many human ships can operate entirely without computers. Beware of human ships playing dead. They are likely gathering information and planning something unusual. The document went on to list specific encounters, each more improbable than the last. Max reached the section titled Emergency Protocols when Encountering Human Ships and couldn't help but laugh at the first line. If possible, just don't. Let them go about their business. In shipyards and academies across council space, the manual became required reading. Young officers studied the case studies, while engineers debated the implications of human redundancy systems. During one academy lecture, an instructor highlighted a particularly important passage. "Remember, humans don't think like us about technology. Where we see outdated systems, they see reliable backups. Where we see inefficient redundancy, they see survival insurance." A human engineer once described their philosophy as, "If it can break, have 3 ways to fix it. If it can't break, have 4 ways to fix it anyway, because it'll probably break." The manual's influence spread beyond military and emergency services. Commercial ships began adopting what they called human-style safety measures. Insurance companies offered lower rates to vessels that maintained mechanical backups alongside their advanced systems. A new section appeared in the manual, titled Understanding Human Innovation. Humans don't solve problems the way other species do. When faced with a critical system failure, most species focus on fixing the advanced system that failed. Humans, instead, ask themselves, what else can do this job? The answer often involves using equipment in ways its manufacturers never intended. In the Council's diplomatic course, officials added a mandatory note to all first contact protocols. If encountering a human vessel, do not attempt to classify their technology level based on initial scans. Their apparent technological development may be deliberately misleading. The manual's final section became famous throughout Council space. Final notes on human ships. They are never as helpless as they appear. Their backup systems have backup systems. Their crews can improvise solutions that defy standard physics. When all else fails, they probably have a mechanical system from their early space age that will work anyway. The more desperate their situation, the more creative their solutions become. Remember, a human ship is most dangerous when you think you've won. As Max finished reading, he added his own note to the file. Required reading for all patrol ships. No exceptions. We're not making that mistake again. 1 year after the Star Runner incident, a council research team made an interesting discovery. They found that the mere presence of a human ship in a sector reduced criminal activity by 60%. Space pirates, usually bold in their attacks on merchant vessels, would quietly change course when their sensors detected human registry codes. At the Galactic Security Conference, Admiral Lix presented these findings to representatives from 50 species. The reputation of human ships has grown beyond simple engineering respect, he explained. They've become what ancient humans called a deterrent. He displayed a recording from a captured pirate's interrogation. "Attack a human ship? Are you crazy?" the pirate captain had said. "Sure, they look like easy targets. Then suddenly you're dealing with a crew that sealed their hull breaches with space tape, converted their coffee maker into an emergency power source, and is coming after you with mining tools turned into weapons. It's not worth the trouble." The conference hall erupted in knowing laughter. Everyone had heard similar stories by now. A shipping company executive shared her experience. "We started hiring human engineers to train our crews. The first lesson: stop thinking about what tools were designed to do. Start thinking about what they can do. It's completely changed how we approach problems." The humans' influence on ship design became evident across the galaxy. Vessels that once relied purely on quantum computers now carried old-style mechanical controls. Ships began to feature what humans called manual override systems, physical controls that could work without power or computer guidance. In the Rigel sector, a passenger liner's quantum drive failed during an ion storm. The human engineer on board rigged a temporary replacement using parts from the ship's waste recycling system. When asked how he thought of such an unusual solution, he shrugged and said, "Both systems move stuff from one place to another. The principles are the same if you ignore what's being moved." The Council's Engineering Academy added a new course, Human Problem-Solving Methods. The first lecture always began with the same story about a human repair crew that fixed a fusion reactor using only a rubber ball, some wire, and what they called chewing gum. Even the military changed its protocols. Battle damage reports now included a new category, human-style repairs needed. It meant the ship required fixes that didn't follow standard procedures, but would keep the vessel running. Trade routes near Earth became some of the safest in the galaxy, not because they were heavily patrolled, but because no one wanted to risk encountering a human ship that might get creative with its cargo. As one shipping executive put it, "You never know if that human freighter is carrying grain, spare parts, or a crew crazy enough to turn both into a weapon." The Council's annual technology review included a new section analyzing human innovations. Most weren't advances in the traditional sense. Instead, they were clever ways to use existing technology in unexpected combinations. One report detailed a human mining ship that lost its main computer. Instead of waiting for repairs, the crew used their personal tablets, 3 gaming consoles, and the ship's backup calculator to build a temporary replacement. The Council engineers who studied the case were less impressed by the solution itself than by how quickly the crew thought of it. Even Earth's enemies had to adapt. A notorious pirate leader issued standing orders to his fleet. "If you see a human ship, leave it alone. Whatever you might steal isn't worth dealing with a crew that treats engineering impossibilities as personal challenges." The Council eventually created a special classification for human vessels, unconventionally adaptive. The official definition read, "Ships capable of surviving and operating through methods that defy standard emergency protocols and expectations." In private, most species used simpler terms: unkillable, too stubborn to fail, the ships you don't mess with. As one alien admiral famously said, the problem with human ships isn't that they're advanced. The problem is that they refuse to accept failure as an option. And somehow, they keep proving themselves right. 10 years after the Star Runner incident, Captain Tom Walker stood at a podium in the Council's Grand Hall. Behind him, a holographic display showed his old ship, now preserved as a museum piece in Earth's space dock. The hall was packed with representatives from hundreds of species, all gathered for the 10th anniversary of what had become known as the incident that changed everything. "I never meant to start a revolution," Walker began, his voice carrying through the vast chamber. "We were just a simple cargo ship trying to protect ourselves. But sometimes the smallest actions have the biggest consequences. In the decade since the Star Runner's encounter with the Council patrol ship, humanity's influence on space travel had grown far beyond anyone's expectations. The incident had sparked what historians now called the human engineering revolution. The changes were everywhere. Ship designs across the galaxy now featured what manufacturers proudly called human-grade backup systems. The term had become a mark of quality, promising reliability through simplicity alongside advanced technology. In the shipyards orbiting major worlds, vessels under construction showed the new philosophy in action. Complex quantum systems sat alongside mechanical backups. Computer controls had physical override options. Engine rooms carried tools that could be repurposed in emergencies. The real legacy, Walker continued, isn't about technology. It's about changing how we think about problems. Every species brings its own gifts to the stars. Ours, it turns out, is the ability to see possibilities where others see dead ends. The Council's archives now included an entire section dedicated to human solutions, cases where human crews had survived seemingly impossible situations. Each case was studied by engineers and crew members across the galaxy. A favorite story told of a human medical transport that lost all power near a dangerous pulsar. The crew used the magnetic properties of their blood pressure monitors to create a primitive compass, allowing them to navigate by the pulsar's emissions until help arrived. When asked why they had thought to try something so unusual, the ship's doctor replied, "Because it was better than doing nothing." The term, pulling the human, had entered common language across Council space. It meant solving a problem in an unconventional but effective way. Young engineers would ask themselves, what would a human do when faced with difficult repairs? Even the Council's first contact protocols had been completely rewritten. The new guidelines emphasized respecting alternate technological approaches and warned against making assumptions based on apparent technological levels. Looking back, Walker said, gesturing at the hologram of his old ship, the Star Runner taught everyone a valuable lesson. The path to the stars isn't a single road. Each species finds its own way up, and every path has value. In the audience, Commander Rex, now Admiral Rex, nodded in agreement. His failed attempt to salvage the Star Runner had led to one of the most significant changes in Council history. Under his guidance, the Council's patrol fleet had adopted what they called adaptive engagement protocols. The Star Runner itself had become more than just a museum piece. It was now a training ship where crew members from all species learned about human engineering principles. Visitors could see the simple but effective systems that had baffled the Council boarding party, now carefully preserved as teaching tools. The future of space travel, Walker concluded, isn't about having the most advanced technology. It's about having the right technology for the situation and the creativity to use what you have in ways no one expected. As he finished speaking, the hologram behind him changed to show modern ships incorporating both advanced technology and human-style backup systems. They were symbols of a new era in space travel, one where elegance and simplicity worked together, where multiple approaches to the same problem were valued rather than dismissed. In the decades that followed, the warning about human ships evolved into something else. A reminder that innovation comes in many forms, and that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most reliable. The legacy of the Star Runner lived on in every ship that carried backup systems, in every crew that found an unexpected solution, and in the collective wisdom of a galaxy that had learned to appreciate the value of human ingenuity.